little over the edge, but I mean...
Hey, hello, and welcome to Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. My name's Dirk Keller. This is Bob Boyd. He didn't know that we had started already.
Of course not.
We were still talking about the Alabama quarterback's girlfriend.
That's right.
Pat White is back. Welcome back, Pat. Good to have you
Good
here.
to see you guys.
And Pat didn't say a word.
And
No.
He's a gentleman.
That's right.
And Earl Murphy's a gentleman. And
Earl the Pearl.
Earl's back with us. Joe Murphy, I always forget to thank Joe Murphy, Earl's son, who is behind the camera, behind the lights, and makes this show every week. Without Joe Murphy, we don't exist. Joe,
Without Joe,
thanks.
the show doesn't go.
That's right. That's right. So, Joe, thanks for being here. We wanted to start the show off and mention the passing of a legend. Pete Elliott died last Friday. He is the younger brother of Bump Elliott, the longtime athletic director and well-respected citizen of Iowa City. Pete grew up in Bloomington, Illinois, where I grew up, and was a big-time athlete in Bloomington, along with his big brother Bump. And at one time, he and Bump were both coaching Big Ten teams. Bump at Michigan, Pete at Illinois. Pete, little trivia, Pete was the head coach of Cal when they played in the Rose Bowl against Iowa and Forrest Evashevsky. And shortly after he was with Cal, I think I've got this right, he went to Nebraska and coached there for 1 year. I may have it reversed. You've got the obituary here. Pete also was the longtime director of the National Football League Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And I had the honor of meeting Pete several times, and the first time was upstairs in the old field house when I was a student at the university, and Bump introduced me to him, and he found out who my dad was, and we had a nice chat. I just have to tell you, same personality as Bump, very friendly, very outgoing, interested. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How much younger is he than Bump?
I believe 2 years.
Okay.
Pete was 86 when he died.
Uh-huh.
And I believe Bump is 88, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, not a great time to lose your brother. Bump was down in Florida for the national championship game with Notre Dame, where his son Bobby Elliott was coaching Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they had a lot of family members down there in Florida for the BCS championship game. Pete's funeral is this Friday in Ann Arbor, where he was where he was a student. He played football for Michigan, just like Pete.
Well, not just football. One of the amazing things about Pete, when you stop and think about it, he won 12 varsity letters at Michigan. 4 in football, 4 in basketball, and 4 as a golfer.
Wow.
I mean, think of what it would be like today for somebody to win 12 college letters.
He was an All-American football player at Michigan, and they won back-to-back national championships in 47 and 48. And he was the only Michigan athlete ever to earn 12 varsity letters.
Wow.
He was also awarded the Big Ten Medal of Honor for athletic and scholastic achievement. Pete was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1994. His college and professional coaching career began at Oregon State, and from there he went to the staff at Oklahoma University, where he coached under, help me out here. Bud Wilkinson, thank you. And he was there when they had their longest winning streak in college football history.
49 straight.
Yeah. In 1996, at the age of 29, he was hired as the head coach at the University of Nebraska, and 1 year later named head coach at University of California. And he took them to their last Rose Bowl appearance, which was 1959 against the Hawkeyes.
Right?
Yeah,
that was.
I had to stop and think when I read that. I thought,
wow.
That's a barren streak. In 1960, he assumed the head coaching duties at the University of Illinois, and he led Illinois to their last Rose Bowl championship, which was in 1964, January 1st, 1964. And I forgot about this. In 1973, he was the head coach at the University of Miami in Florida. And then in 1978, he joined the coaching staff of the St. Louis Football Cardinals. And I do remember that because my dad made a big deal out of that.
1978.
Yep. And then a year later, he was appointed the executive director of the Professional Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
Wow.
I grew up around the dinner table and listening to stories that my dad would tell about Pete and Bump, their athletic exploits in high school and college. And
Bloomington, Illinois.
And one thing that really upset my dad was when Pete Elliott was fired at the University of Illinois. He was made a scapegoat for the infamous slush fund scandal that they had. And what I learned is that Pete was for an athletic director who was about to retire. And Pete was going to become, as many assume, the athletic director at Illinois. But the outgoing athletic director didn't want, quote unquote, a Michigan man as athletic director at the University of Illinois, even though Pete grew up just down the road.
He was the coach, right?
Yeah.
Grew up in Illinois.
He grew up right down the road from Champaign and was as trustworthy and honorable as any man could be. His brother Bump.
Yeah.
And the same athletic director was knee deep in that slush fund scandal at Illinois and blamed Pete Elliott and pointed the arrows at Pete, and he took the fall along with basketball coach Harry Combs for this slush fund scandal. Pete was tarred with that brush.
Who was the principal?
The athletic director?
No, the one who received the scholarship.
Don't know.
Players?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, there were several.
Yeah.
So, it's the end of a legacy, I think.
They were
Wow.
still operating by 1940s and early 50s type rules and oversight,
Yeah.
which had was an era that had passed at that point.
Well, it's a shame because Illinois had a chance with Pete Elliott to wipe the past away and put in somebody with integrity. And instead, they chose the path we now have come to know that just persisted for decades, even after that. So
Now, had Pete Elliott been sick? Was this a surprise, or did they see this coming? Or?
I don't know. It did say he was surrounded by his family when he died.
All right.
So I guess it might have been expected. But he was just a heck of a guy, much like his brother Bump. And sorry to see him go, and I'm real sorry.
He had
for
another
Bump.
brother.
Yep. He's survived by 2 sons, 4 granddaughters, 2 brothers, Bump in Iowa City and Jim in Bloomington, Illinois.
Back at home, huh?
I think you told me Jim was a big
Insurance man.
with Allstate,
Okay.
which was based today, as it always has been, in Bloomington, Illinois. And let's see. Yeah, I guess that's it. So,
Wow.
best
A legend
wishes.
passing.
Yeah, best wishes to the Elliott family. They're going through a tough time. And we brought up the Elliott family because there was a great article in Sports Illustrated last week on Bobby Elliott, Bump's son, who's been coaching at Notre Dame this year very successfully, or at least until the championship game.
Right.
And what we already knew about Bobby Elliott is that he survived a rare blood cancer when he was coaching here at Iowa.
Cancer, was it? No.
I don't know. It's
I said leukemia.
it wasn't leukemia. Let's see what they call it in this article.
Okay.
I know it's a rare form of some blood disease, and he's had to undergo kidney dialysis for years, even after surviving this while he was coaching here at Iowa. And
He's been since what, about the mid-90s maybe? 95 or 6 in there?
well, it was just before Hayden retired,
Well,
which would have
Hayden's
been
last
98.
season was 98, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we all felt strongly that Bobby Elliott would be the next head coach at Iowa. But he got sick that year of Hayden's last season
Okay,
and was not well enough to coach or work anywhere at that time.
that's right.
He was also a football player for Iowa and played under...
Cummings?
did he play under Cummings?
Cummings
He played
or
with Dan
Nagel?
McCarney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that much. They were roommates, it says in this article.
I
Well,
have,
he played in Bump's first, probably Bump's second year here. What year was that?
Well, Bump was here in what, 70?
Bobby played football still in Ann Arbor when he was a senior
In high school,
and then
yeah.
he came here and played
About
baseball the
69.
last spring.
Okay.
Of his
69,
Of
70.
his senior year, and then he enrolled at Iowa that fall.
That had to be tough for him.
Oh, very tough.
That had to
Oh,
be
yeah.
tough.
Leaving the middle of your
he
senior
went to
year.
school at, they moved here and Bob stayed in school his senior year.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
and
He moved here before he graduated because I
Oh,
know
sure,
he played
because,
baseball at West.
Did he play in the summer, maybe?
Well, there's
No,
summer.
he got,
There is summer baseball, but you have to, in order to
Gotta be enrolled.
play summer baseball, you have
I
to,
think that was simply, I think he came in his senior year.
after the football season.
Yeah, it came like January semester,
Yeah.
I think
maybe.
he was a quarterback at Pioneer High School in Ann Arbor. And
Yeah.
Which is a famous high school.
Is he smart enough for that?
Oh,
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, he's the old saying is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He's
Yeah.
just a delightful
Oh.
guy.
yeah.
Just quiet, unassuming, much like his dad. And
He always teased me. I remember when he before the operation, he Bob said, "Come on over to see Bobby once in a while." So I went over a couple of days later, and I said, I stopped at this, I don't know, the headquarters, and I said, "I want to see Bobby Elliott," and she said, "No." She said,
Too many visitors.
"Oh yes." And
You know-
Bob heard my voice, and so
gotcha.
yeah, he said, "Come on in, Murph." So I walked in, and Bob is that cell all cellophane or
Oh,
Yeah.
and
he was wrapped in a bubble, wasn't he?
and he said, "Hi, how are you, Murph?" I said, "I'm fine." He said, "By the way, not talking to me, talking to his dad. It's something about football. I don't know what it was." And he talked, and Bob talked, and
Yeah.
I felt neglected.
Oh, you were there,
You
right?
know, one of the things that happens, to talk about too many visitors, occasionally he manages to get back here during basketball season and go to a game. Used with Bump and Barb used to go there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's this long line. It's just a constant parade of people coming over to hug him or shake his hand.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't see much of the game because people keep coming up to him.
He lived with McCarney,
Yeah.
the quarterback. What's his name? Oh, from,
It said here in the article there were 8 of them living in a 4-bedroom house.
yeah,
Oh, boy.
And McCarney was one of them.
McCarney, and the other kid was he was a graduate of that I knew was at West. McCarney and anyhow,
John Miskimen, maybe.
no, the quarterback name.
For the Iowa team.
I don't know.
Oh, anyhow,
Skolman?
Bobby he came in the store and bought a beautiful camel hair heavy coat,
Yeah.
and we had to shorten the sleeves and some. He picked the coat up, took it home, and put it in the closet. And it had a Burma wrap. It was we gave him a nice coat, and they found. They say Bob bought that coat. Let's pull a trick on him. And they had the quarterback lay down, and Bobby turned off his car, the motor of his car, and he called his dog over and he put the dog on top of him. He had a and Bobby comes home, and he sees it, and he just exploded, and they just howled,
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Bobby has a form of blood cancer, had a form of blood cancer
Okay.
called polycythemia vera. And it just attacked, he had a 50 to 1 shove.
Wow.
And he lived.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. he lived, it was like 22 days, and I think he got well the 21st day.
He was in bad shape.
Uh-huh.
Well, now because
that's
of
what
all,
took a hold.
Yep, and as a result of that illness, which he has survived, he has to get, I guess, daily dialysis of his kidneys. And the article here talks
Daily?
about everywhere he goes. Yeah,
Daily?
everywhere he goes, he has to take these bottles with him. And it talks about how it's no big deal to him to sit in the parking lot somewhere when he's scouting and have the bottle hooked up in the car and just sit there for whatever it takes.
Wow.
So as a result of all that dialysis, his kidneys have failed, and his sister has agreed to, and
She's a lovely girl.
well, she's a
She's
match,
the closest match, yeah.
and so she's agreed to do it. It says in here, Joey said, "I'm your girl,"
Betsy.
Wow.
or Betsy. I'm sorry,
Joey's his wife.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Betsy said, "I'm your girl," and that's going to keep him alive.
And it's going to happen in
It's
soon.
real soon, within a couple weeks at most.
Okay.
The article says early February.
But we don't know where.
But it should also be mentioned that Bobby was a very good student, a Rhodes Scholar candidate, academic All-American,
A good ball player, too.
and a real good ball player. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
He's
Defensive.
rather small to be a big-time football player, but he was.
yeah. Great article in Sports Illustrated on January 6th. If you want to look it up, it's out there. That's just this week. It just came out Monday, I guess.
Yeah.
Sunday or Monday.
So did they deal with just Bobby Elliott in the article? Or they talk about Notre Dame or?
Not a lot about Notre Dame. It's all about
Okay.
Bob Elliott.
Okay.
The long, resilient journey of Notre Dame Elliott.
I see.
And,
Yeah, he doesn't go by Bobby.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We know him as
Only
Bobby.
people that call him Bobby are in Iowa City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
Probably his aunts and uncles.
he's Bob.
Yep.
Bob.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
quite a guy.
I don't go by Bobby either, but all my aunts and uncles that are still alive.
call you
they,
Bobby?
They still call me Bobby till their dying day. You know,
I can't say what my aunts and uncles call me. Well, we wish the best to the Elliott family, and want all of them to know that we're thinking of them. And I know a lot of our viewers are doing the same thing. It was tough to watch Notre Dame lose like they did Monday night. Gee whiz, I did not expect that thrashing. I thought Notre Dame might show up a little stronger,
Yeah.
at least defensively.
And they ran over that All-American.
Mante Teo,
Boy, they did.
They
I'll tell
did,
you
right
what,
up the middle.
They ran over everybody.
that Alabama is good. They're just good.
They really are.
They're above everybody else right now, it seems like.
And it makes you wonder, how good is Texas A&M?
Yeah.
I mean, that's who beat Alabama this year.
Well, didn't they end up third in the final poll?
Did they?
I think that's right.
Should have been
It
second.
was Oregon number 2.
second, and A&M.
Well, see, you're not going to put a 2-loss team at number 2. Oregon was
Yeah.
1-loss team, and there they are.
Think of the hype that will precede that game next year, which I assume is at Texas A&M, because
Yes.
A&M beat them in Busa this year. But Heisman Trophy winner
Yep.
on his home field against the.
I don't know about you guys, but I never got to see Johnny Manziel play football until the bowl game.
I'm the same way.
Gee
I
whiz.
was impressed.
Yeah,
I came away a
Yeah.
believer.
529 or 519 yards or something.
Freshman.
He's the real deal. Redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, first year on the field.
Which I think will make him eligible to go to the NFL after one more year if
That's
he
correct.
chooses to.
It's 3 years out. Doesn't matter whether you redshirt or not.
Right.
So, Monday night, did you watch the whole game, Pat?
I did.
Really?
I did too.
Earl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I turned it off at halftime.
I thought, it was the way it was, but I mean, it still piqued my interest because it was just so dominating. I kept waiting for Notre Dame to score some points, I guess. They finally did. But
So you weren't watching when the Alabama center pushed McCarron?
what was that all about, Pat? What?
Something about the counter,
At-
both counter, the center calls signals and.
And
You
they're
know,
like
they're
roommates, too,
Yeah,
aren't they?
well, I think that's overstated. I think they
Well,
roomed
maybe they
together
were dating the
on
same
road.
girl and the quarterback finally won out. Who knows?
But they were both calling out signals, and McCarron wanted the ball.
Yeah.
And the center, what's his name? I forget what his
Yeah.
name
He pushed him, didn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
but McCarron got up in his face
Yeah.
on national TV in front of everybody, and the center pushed him away. They got over it. very
Yeah.
quickly.
Boys will be boys.
It's one of those things that happens.
It's not
Yeah.
something you expect to see on a
They're
national
ahead 42 to
championship game.
14.
Yeah, we made a
They're
mistake.
yelling at each other.
Yeah, about the only damn mistake they made all day.
Oh.
You know, when I read about it, I thought, right away, I thought of Saban, their head coach. And I thought, that's how he handles conflict.
Well, he was yelling at the referees in the second half. They're ahead by 4 touchdowns, and he's just all over on the sidelines.
And the referees made some terrible
I
calls
was gonna
against
say,
Notre Dame early on. That first one, the first call I was just bewildered by was the sideline tight end reception. He made a beautiful catch, and the referees said no. And then they showed the replay, and everyone that saw it said, that's a catch. Okay, they didn't give it to him. Okay. Then Notre Dame has to punt. And the Notre Dame pushed in the back into the receiver for Alabama, and they call a penalty on Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Some of that, which we see at slow motion, is just very hard for him to see. And
But they looked at them. They
Real speed.
both plays were reviewed.
Yeah, but don't you wonder, Pat, on some of these reviews on TV where it's so obvious to even maybe 2 different camera angles, and they still don't reverse some of these calls that are so obvious? I mean, the way it sounds on TV and the commentators are, yeah, what do you have replay for?
Right.
You're supposed to get it right after
Yeah.
you look at it, aren't you?
Those 2 calls were just terrible. But the third call that really blew my mind, and they ended up reversing it. But again, the tight end catches a pass, gets taken down, and once he's on the ground, he loses the ball. Anyone watching with a live eye saw that the guy was down. And there were 3 referees right around that play. They call fumble, and they give the ball to Alabama. Replay clearly shows the knee was down. They reverse it. But my point is, how do the top college officials make that call in the first place? It wasn't even close. And this is the big game.
Where were they from?
I don't know.
you know, I don't either know where the crew is from.
Yeah.
I thought they were inept. And I told my son at the time, I said, Notre Dame's going to be mad. They're going to come out and they're going to play with a vengeance.
Did they
and they
say-
didn't.
Did they say at one time it was a Big 12 crew? Or did I?
I don't remember that.
Okay. All right.
It could well have been.
Yeah.
It probably was neither an SEC or a Big East crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Southeast Conference crew.
Yeah, something strange happened. Where did Alabama coach go to? Miami or?
Yeah, he was coached with
Oh,
the
in the
Dolphins.
NFL, yeah.
Then he coached 1 year, didn't he?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years, 2 unsuccessful years.
He was 12 and 20
Yeah,
in 2 years.
and he coached against Iowa once, didn't he?
Is that it?
At Michigan State, was it only once?
Well, I don't know. He was at Michigan
I was
State.
thinking more than once.
Wasn't he there for 5 years
Yeah, he
as
was.
their head coach?
Seems about right.
Now, they could have rotated off our schedule for a couple of years, but I think
Okay.
he should have been.
How about the?
Well, LSU.
how about that bowl game at?
Yeah, that was a Capital One Bowl
Yes,
on New Year's Day when we beat him on the last
play the game.
play of the game. He was
Okay.
defending national champion at LSU.
Oh,
That was
okay.
his last game coached at LSU
That's
because he'd been lying all week about he wasn't going to go to Miami, remember?
But-
I forgot all about
And
that.
then the next week he announced that he was going to the NFL.
That's one of the great photos. I mean, everybody talked catch and
Yeah.
Yes.
the photo of Holloway, but the greatest part of the photos are the LSU
I
sideline.
know what you're talking about.
These disbelieving
Stunned.
faces.
And the LSU fans behind
Right,
the bench.
right.
Because they're all just, oh.
And then you
Oh,
go there 5
man.
minutes later, they're all emptied.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was New Year's Day of 05.
Oh, 5
Yeah.
already.
It was the end of the 04 season.
8 years ago.
Yeah, that was that Tate.
Tate to Holloway.
Tate to Holloway.
Gary Dolphin said, I don't believe what I just
I'm not sure any of us did.
Tate doesn't know that the clock is running.
Yeah.
What a play. Bud Supple left before that play.
Oh, did he?
He won't admit it, though.
He says he was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And Bowlby was coming down from upstairs, down to the
Yeah,
field.
he missed it
He
too.
missed it too.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
That I didn't know.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
said, did you see it? He said, sure. And
Oh, yeah.
On replay.
Yeah, the athletic director would never want to admit to that.
Speaking of Bob Bowlesby, he was given much credit by Bobby Elliott in this article in Sports Illustrated for helping him out. Bob Bowlesby got him a job working for the foundation, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
so that he could continue having insurance coverage
Oh, good.
while he was so sick.
Yes.
That's in that article.
Yeah, it's in the article. Talks about a very unsung hero in Bob Bowlesby.
Well, now, how long was Bob Elliott out of coaching as a result of the illness initially? Like 2 seasons, you think?
Well, he was certainly out 98 and 99, and
Okay.
I'm pretty certain Dan McCarney hired him
He did.
at Iowa State,
Yeah.
and I don't remember when McCarney ended up or started at Iowa State.
I don't either, but that was
Yeah.
who first hired him back.
2000 or 01, it was one of those 2
His
seasons.
old college roommate, his teammate.
Yes. Well,
But his health was doing fine at that point.
yeah. Well, friends take care of friends.
That's right. Well, the bowl season is over. College football is over. But college basketball is just getting underway with the Big Ten season. Last weekend was an interesting weekend or interesting time period to be a Hawkeye fan. It was a really bad weekend for the Hawkeyes to play Michigan.
That's for sure.
Both the men and the women's basketball teams played at about the same time on Sunday. Thanks a lot, Big Ten, for really messing
Yeah.
up the schedule. The women lost at home by 4 points. The men lost on the road in Ann Arbor by 28 points. And it was not pretty. And I don't know that the game was even that close.
Was for 17 minutes.
Yeah, that's the thing. The men's game, I thought it was like a heavyweight battle. They stood toe-to-toe with Michigan and slugged it out until about 2-3 minutes to go in the half. And it all changed when Aaron White went up for a dunk and got rejected by the Michigan defender. But I swear to God, he also fouled Aaron White hard. It took Aaron White to the ground. It was a clean block, but his follow-through just hammered Aaron White across the shoulder and took him to the ground. Michigan gets the carom down court. They score. I think they scored, I don't know how many unanswered points to end the half.
It was like an 11-0 run or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. And boy,
It just, everything changed. The momentum of second half, we came out
Michigan's good.
flat on defense.
yeah, they're very good.
They're really good.
France
They're very
very
good.
disappointed in the willingness of the Hawkeye men's team to put up a fight. He said, I'm not talking about getting physical. I'm talking about standing tough and doing your job as a defender. And he's talking about, if it keeps up, Devin Marble and Aaron White aren't going to be starting.
One of the scary things about Michigan is they have basically the same starting lineup that we do in terms of experience.
Good point.
Starting 3 true freshmen
Yep.
and a sophomore.
They are good.
They're very good.
Yeah. They are.
I think they're
Especially
better
at
than
guard.
Indiana as a team. They're just so explosive.
That'll be a good game when those two teams play.
I think it'll depend a lot on where they play. The home court advantage is
Yeah.
really tough to overcome in the Big Ten.
Yep.
Well, and a given night, who's hot and who's not.
Yeah,
You take
no, that's
the
right.
Indiana-Iowa game, 4 points difference. Both teams shot poorly, and if either team had been shooting 48 or 50%, that'd have been a 20-point game either way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we could easily have won that game.
yeah. And then you turn around and get beat by a very hot. What were the statistics for Michigan? Did they shoot 60%? It seemed like I didn't hear the stats.
Half
but-
their shots were dunks.
I know, but they still count as a high percentage.
Even Burke dunked once.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
The little
God!
guard.
Well, hopefully a couple of those guys won't be there next year. They'll go to the NBA.
Oh, I
Burke
think they will.
And who's Hardaway?
Hardaway.
Hardaway.
Ed Robinson, Glenn Robinson III. He's a heck
He's
of a
only a
legacy
freshman.
player too, though.
Oh my gosh!
I think somebody, I forget who said it, but I just read this quote again after that game, and somebody has suggested that the dunk only be given 1 point in college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that'll
of the
happen.
degree of difficulty. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we would have won that game, even
you
if a
think
1 point dunk.
that our center is playing pretty well?
At times.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
defensively.
He's coming.
He's
Yeah.
coming. That's right.
I think we're going to be very happy to have him.
That's
Yeah,
right.
oh, I already am.
I think Fran was mad and he pulled his starters for quite a long period of time to make a statement, but
Well,
to me, I would have liked to have seen Woodbury in there getting banged around a little bit and getting some more experience.
Well,
If
he's
he
still-
fouls out, he fouls out.
Still been in foul trouble, which
Yeah.
is why
I'm
I'm sure
with
why
Bob.
Fran pulls him.
Let him play.
let him play.
Because you're
Didn't he
not
play
going to
him?
win the game anyway. You're down by 25 or 30 at that point.
No, I mean sooner than that.
Yeah.
Didn't
I
Woodbury
think
play
that-
quite a bit late? Or in the second half?
Well, I'm talking about when did he pull him? It was pretty
He's still
early second half.
his average minutes are still 18, 19, 20, playing half or less of the game.
Not bad for a true freshman.
Do you think our starters are playing less than they should because
I
Fran's
do.
so
I do.
conscientious about getting everybody their minutes?
I do. But,
I do too.
I do.
You know, we talked. All Iowa fans have talked about how he's going to deal with this roster without getting some really grumpy people who think
Yeah.
they ought to be getting more playing time. And
Oh, somebody's going to leave.
yeah, I would play him more. And now I also think Aaron White has a tendency to a little moody when he misses a shot or something goes wrong. I think he slows down a little bit and is not as aggressive. And
That's
you know,
a keen observation, I think.
and I think he's also still struggling some with the move to the power forward position.
I agree.
Last year he was playing the wing.
And he was never reluctant to put up the three last
Right.
year. This year,
This year he's not putting it up as much, but the opportunities as much.
Yeah.
But he is so good around the basket.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's got great skills to get a hold of the ball and get the ball up on the backboard or dunk it. That 4 is a great position for him. And I think
But that's
he'll
part of the
come around.
versatility of what Fran's recruited. You know, all those guys,
is.
it seems, well, he can play a 3 or 4 very easily. And all those guys can play at least 2 spots. And that gives you the depth. And when you get in foul trouble, you can, you know, move a Giselle to 2 and bring in Clemens. Or look at a Marble. He can play 1, 2, or 3 positions.
he's still got to prove he can play defense, though.
Well, I don't
And
think
he
he has to
didn't.
worry about going to the NBA after the end of the season unless things, you know, there's been talk
Well,
of that.
That's
and-
what I used to say about Ricky Davis. And
Yeah, I'd said that too.
well, that's true.
his checkbook got awfully fast.
And he went after 1 year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I couldn't imagine
I
what
couldn't either.
NBA
I
team
remember
would take
being
him, and they took him in the
totally,
first
yeah.
round.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
But I
He's
like
still
our,
playing.
I like our little guard.
Who?
The guard.
Giselle or
Gazelle.
Clemens?
Gazelle.
Well,
Gazelle.
they're both pretty darn good.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah.
I
Now, one of the things that will be interesting Thursday night is seeing Clemens playing his
Yeah.
old high school teammate who starts for Michigan State
and he's from Lansing.
as a true freshman. Yeah, they're both from
Yeah.
Lansing. Valentine. He
Now,
was recruited, and
yeah.
You know he's going to be fired up for that game.
I would think so. You
Now,
know, he leads the Big Ten in assists.
I didn't know that.
Just in
Oh.
Big Ten games.
Well, that's
the
very important.
Clemens.
Clemens does?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
It's averaging 7 assists. Only 2 games, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So now the men will host Michigan State Thursday night at 6 p.m.
Right.
At 6 p.m. It's a whiteout game. So if you're going to be in attendance, wear white, I guess.
Do I have to?
White? I don't know about.
I don't know.
Our colors are black and gold, aren't they? Or have they changed since I've lost my eyesight?
I don't know about
Whiteout, okay.
It's another marketing ploy to.
Well, maybe
I
you're
don't
supposed to bring one of those little bottles of white out.
You know, I know that Michigan State has had a number of whiteouts in their
Really?
basketball games.
Okay.
Yeah, of course that's part of their color scheme.
Penn State does it
Penn
very
State does
effectively
it.
in football, but that's their part of their color.
Blue and white
Right.
are the colors,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
This game Thursday night is going to be on
ESPN 2.
2, the Deuce.
The Deuce.
Reduced.
And then on
Okay.
Sunday, the men are traveling to Northwestern for a 4:30 game on ESPNU. Thanks again, Big Ten, for the schedule.
ESPNU, which half the town doesn't
Right.
get.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's very frustrating. 4:30 on Sunday. I'm sorry. It's not college basketball day.
Well,
Really
and you're getting with the NFL playoffs to boot.
You know, last Sunday we had the men and women playing at virtually the same time
That's
on
gonna-
Sunday morning.
That's going to happen again Thursday night.
Yep.
They'll be playing not quite as much of the same time because the women
We're going to get to see both, I think.
They're at
will see
Madison,
part
right?
of the women. Yes.
They're Wisconsin Thursday night, Pat.
The women will host,
I think
I'm
they start
sorry,
at 7. don't
they go to Wisconsin for a 7:30 game
7:30.
on the Big Ten
Big
Network.
Ten Network.
So
Okay.
at Wisconsin, Thursday at 7:30.
But the men's
So-
game won't be
Okay.
over.
No, won't be over yet. But at least it's on the Big Ten Network for once. The women had some tough luck against Michigan on Sunday. They lost at home by 4 points. I don't think the final score really indicated how far apart the.
No, they came from 13 down
Yeah.
with like 6 minutes to go.
But do you think Michigan caught us flat-footed, Pat?
Yeah, I think we were down.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
One of the things that I think she's going to be really good, and she certainly is one of our 5, should continue to be one of our 5 starters. But Bethany Doolittle, if she doesn't make a shot early, I think she has a tendency to lose confidence and back off a little. She didn't score Sunday. I mean, we can't.
She didn't.
We can't win with
No.
that.
Yeah.
We need 8, 10, 12 points from her, 6 to 8 rebounds.
Boy, they came back strong. They almost pulled it off. It seemed like they didn't wake up until there were about 6 minutes left.
I think they were burned out a bit from the overtime win over Ohio State.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I want to talk about that game. It was as bad a weekend as it was for Iowa to play Michigan in any sport. It was just as good for the Hawkeyes to play Ohio State, starting with the women beating Ohio State team Thursday night. And that was, Pat said, an overtime game.
it was a game we had to win twice.
Oh, man.
We're
Yeah.
13 points up in the second half. Ohio State came back, tied it. We were actually lucky to get
Oh,
it
yeah.
into
They
overtime.
missed the last
Morgan
shot.
Johnson hits those 2 free
Yeah.
throws
Oh, boy.
near the end of regulation when nobody was hitting 2 free throws
Well,
that
and
night.
then Ohio State got about 3 shots.
Yep.
Yeah.
As the buzzer was about to go off, 3 shots at the basket, and
I felt
they were well
Iowa.
defended, but they missed them all.
Didn't you feel Iowa was the better team that night?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I thought we
Well,
had
and
much more talent.
The thing that was really interesting to me, Ashley Adams, who's been Ohio State, she started as a freshman. Now she's a junior, and she's their center now. When she was a freshman, she played more high post than low post. She was gassed.
Yeah,
Morgan Johnson just ran her into the ground,
I thought all their
so much
players
so
were.
that Ohio State put her on the bench. And
Well, Taylor played a good.
yeah,
Ciara?
Ciara.
Now, did I hear somewhere that we only play Ohio State once
Yeah,
this year?
that's it.
That's good. Do they play, the women, do they play a 16 or 18
16.
games? Good. 16.
Two
Two
less.
less than the men.
And the
the
reason
Big Ten,
is
I mean.
they start their tournament a week
Week
earlier.
earlier.
Yes.
The way it's set up, the women's tournament precedes the men's
Yeah.
by a week,
Yeah.
so they need to get done earlier.
Okay.
Well, that game against as nerve-wracking as it was very entertaining. Morgan Johnson
It was.
just all over the place. Ciara Taylor, who I think was player of the game, frustrated the heck out of me during that game. And I just have to keep reminding myself, I'm not watching a men's game, it's a women's game. And it's just a bit different. And she just couldn't get a handle on the ball that night until
Yeah.
it counted.
Till overtime.
Well,
She
they-
took over.
They guarded
Yeah.
pretty on it. And that left that
They left the era open.
open.
I think Ciara is gradually gaining confidence in her knees. And she's gone through 3 ACL
Gee.
surgeries. One of the things she said this year, some reporter asked her if she was more confident, and she said, well, I'm not throwing up before the game,
Oh, wow.
which indicates
That's a good sign.
how her nerve been since
Yes.
those surgeries.
Wow.
Did any of you guys ever have a teammate growing up who threw up before games?
No.
I did.
Yeah. I
We used to
did.
ride him hard.
I had a few that threw up after games, but not before, because of the way they play.
I never understood people getting so worked up over games.
Yeah, that's
It's supposed to be fun. Anyway,
yeah, but
the Hawkeye wrestlers beat Ohio State. I ranked Ohio State. In fact, coming into that meet Friday night, Ohio State was ahead of Iowa. And Iowa went out and just thumped them.
Oh, they thumped them.
And Ohio State's coach, former Hawkeye wrestler Tom Ryan, chose not to have his #1 undefeated defending national champ at 133 pounds go up against #2 and undefeated Tony Ramos. And I'm telling you what, the crowd knew it. You had to be there to fully appreciate it. But even before they had made the announcement and they lined the wrestlers to the mat from one another, crowd realizes that's not Logan Stieber out there for Ohio State.
Yeah.
And they started booing. And when they made the announcement, the booing was so loud. And
so was he hiding in the locker room, or was he out there with?
he was out there
Was he?
on the bench, walking around like nothing was wrong. The word was he had a bad hamstring.
Was he dressed in wrestling gear? Or
He
street
had
clothes?
sweats on. No, he did not have street clothes. I don't know what he had on under the sweats.
Yeah.
But they announced that he hamstring somewhere in late December, and it just hadn't gotten better. And so Tom Ryan, former Hawkeye and Dan Gable disciple, teammate of Tom and Terry Brand, holds this guy out. And anyone that knows wrestling knows what he's doing. They know that Logan Stieber's not going to get beat by anybody else
In the Big
other
Ten.
than Tony Ramos. And it was all about seeding
Yeah,
for the
what's
Big Ten
what's the
tournament.
#1 seed?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Have they ever had a meet since? Did they wrestle then?
I
Sunday?
don't know.
It'd be
That's a
interesting
good
to see if
question.
he wrestles.
Because we wrestled Purdue after that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they beat Purdue Sunday. Again, Purdue was ranked. And
They were 20th, weren't they?
18, 20.
Up in there
something
somewhere,
like that.
yeah.
And the Hawkeyes won all but 3 matches in that one. One of those matches they lost was at 125 pounds, where Matt McDonough normally would wrestle. There are a lot of indications that Matt McDonough, in his 4th year as a 125-pounder, is struggling with his weight. There's a...
Well, that's natural too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
He's
was
a grown man.
Weren't you surprised that he's able to stay at 125?
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's now 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, it would be tough.
Think about that. That's about 100 pounds less than I weigh.
Golly.
Yeah, but you're 6'4", you know.
That's great.
Okay.
Well, Matt's taller than most 125 pounds,
Yeah.
He's a lanky one.
which makes it even harder.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was kind of
Okay.
disappointing and maybe more curious that he wasn't in the lineup against Purdue, who had a highly ranked wrestler go and who beat Iowa's stand-in at 125.
But there's really, I mean, they're locked into that. They can't move him up a weight.
No.
Can't move he and Ramos both.
No.
I mean, they've got a freshman 125 pounder who could do it, Corey Clark.
That's
Yeah.
right.
He's the
They're not
next
doing
star
it
in
this
waiting,
year.
right?
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
they really can't move Ramos
Yeah.
up.
Well, the big challenge is
Is
coming
Ramos
up
a
Sunday.
junior or senior?
He's a
I'm thinking he's
junior.
junior.
Yeah,
He's
he's
got
a
another
junior.
year. McDonough. of
He got
course,
third
is-
last
Okay.
year, and he was All-American his freshman year.
Yeah.
The big meet is this Sunday p.m. at Gallagher Iba Arena in against Okie State. Number 2 ranked Okie State. We don't match up well.
Do you know what the
against these
TV
guys.
arrangements are?
No
If
TV.
None at all.
No TV. KXAC will be there.
Well, I'll say, they said in the paper today that MC 22.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I read it.
I don't think so.
okay.
Boy, that'd be
MC22,
wonderful.
huh? I'm 22. Well,
I scoured. There's no TV. In fact,
Maybe
I
it's
have
Purdue.
the.
Maybe it's Purdue.
I think so because I've got the official news release here from the university on the wrestling.
Okay.
And there's no. It's just KXAC 800 AM, and if you've never listened to Hawkeye Wrestling on the radio, this is a great opportunity. Mark Ironside and Stephen Grace do the
a nice job.
announcing.
They do a nice
Oh,
job.
boy,
You're
do
right,
they
yeah.
ever. And
Yeah.
even though Mark Ironside goes overboard every once in a while, as
He's
Earl
fun to
might know,
listen to.
he lives and breathes Hawkeye Wrestling.
Yeah, he does.
Well, he still wrestles, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
In
He gets up there
he
and
comes
practices.
down and goes in the wrestling room and
Yeah.
takes on some of Iowa's wrestlers.
And he gives them a hard time. Yeah, he knows these wrestlers inside and out. He knows them
Yeah.
personally. He knows their strengths and weaknesses, and he'll tell you about it, which is, I think, very unusual for any color commentator on any sport. He really an honest announcer, and it's worth listening to. Tune in at 1:45 Sunday afternoon, and you can hear what he has to say. It's going to be a good one.
Now, where do we? Penn State's ranked number 1, correct? And then
Yes.
Okie State is 2.
Yep. I think
Who's
we're
3?
I
We're
think
4th probably
Minnesota is
Minnesota
number 3.
3. Then we'll be
We
ranked
moved
4th.
up to 4th from 5th, where Ohio State was, and I forget who is 5 now.
Okay.
It's an Eastern team.
Where is Oklahoma State?
Stillwater,
No, what ranking?
number 2. Number 2, and well deserved. They're a really good team.
Yeah.
And their best wrestlers are going up against some of our better wrestlers. It's going to be a humdinger. And, I don't know if anybody read or heard Coach Tom Brands after the Ohio State meet on Friday night, but he was livid. And they just beaten 4-ranked team in 7 out of 10 matches. And he was livid, and he said, "You may think I've got anger control issues, and you're right, I do. I'm not satisfied with this. We should have done this, and we should have done that." And you know what? He was right. It was, as hard as it is to believe, it was kind of a ho-hum meet. Guys that should have scored back points and pins didn't. Guys that should have done better than they didn't. They eked out a few matches. He expects more than that. He
It was
got
like
more.
22-9, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. And he got more against Purdue.
His halftime interview was classic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They do this by prearrangement, of course. The 5th match ends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he's steamed and he's walking off, and the guy,
Big Ten Network guy.
I can't think of his name, but he's always a little hyped. And he stops Brands, and Brands knows he has to do this interview. And this interview's silly. I've got 5 more matches to go. And,
That's right.
and then all of those halftime interviews are silly, and Brands has been
They
the only
are.
one who's
He's right.
honest enough to say it.
Yeah.
You see that too, or hear that too, at football games.
Yeah.
You
What
got the
game
cute
was
little
it?
gal that's interviewing the coach that's coming off the field, and he
After
just does not want to be there. And they
after
ask
the
the
Rose
dumbest
Bowl.
question.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
The Stanford coach
She
didn't want
tried.
to.
Well, he misunderstood what he was supposed to do. He told her he had to get over to the trophy presentation. And of course, they're on ESPN, where when you sign the contract that invites you, you agree to do X, Y, and
Yep.
Z, including coaches' interviews at halftime and the winning coach right after the game. And if they want players, they've got to agree to let them be interviewed.
Well, she was put off by it,
Well, I guess.
and they didn't cut her mic right away. And then the announcers back in the studio made a point about he's supposed to talk to her. And
Well,
Yeah.
what
they
she-
went back to
what
him.
went out over the air was Heather Cox, is it? She's been here a few
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
"You got to be kidding me!"
That's right. I forgot about that.
The whole
Well,
country.
it didn't take long, and
They brought
he
it
was
back.
back with Heather.
I'm sure the SID got
Yep.
wind of what had happened, but the SID should have been with him. Should have. I mean, the way it's supposed to work. If you watch, whether it was Phil now, Matt Weitzel, or Steve Rowe,
Always with the coach.
They always get the coach and take them to where they're supposed to be for the interview.
Okay.
Hey, speaking of that, before I forget, and I want to get back to the Hawkeye
Yeah.
women's basketball team. Last week I mentioned that with the retirement of John Streif, only Fred Mims is left from the old Fieldhouse days in the athletic department. That's not true. And I realized that when I went to the wrestling meet the other night. Les Steenledge is still with the athletic department, very active, and he goes back to the Fieldhouse. And then Monday, we heard who spoke at the quarterback?
Jerry.
Jerry Strom
Strom.
spoke.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was
Does
accurate
he
or
go
not.
back to the field?
Well, they said 1981 that he started with the basketball
Well,
program.
Well, they
That's
opened
Fieldhouse.
Carver in '83.
Yeah, that's
that would take
Fieldhouse.
him back.
January of '83 is when Carver played.
I sure don't
first game
remember
in
Jerry
Carver.
Strom around there then,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna have to. I meant to ask him that afterwards. We were
Well.
chatting,
Yeah.
but yeah, Les Steenledge is and very active and very much a part of the athletic department, and is very well thought of throughout intercollegiate athletics everywhere because of the work he does in putting together Big Ten tournament wrestling meets, NCAA wrestling meets. He's called upon by the NCAA and other schools to help them put these major events on because he knows how to do it and do it right. So, sorry, Les. I haven't had anybody come up and tell me you're wrong.
Hey, you'd probably just as soon not be thought of as that old anyway.
Yeah,
That's right.
good point.
Yeah.
Now back to the women.
Okay.
They play Thursday night at Wisconsin on the Big Ten Network.
Is Wisconsin any good?
I don't know.
They're like 7-6 or something.
Yeah, their
like
record is mediocre, but
Yeah.
it's
a road
still
game.
early in the year.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hard to win on the road. We've won up there. Be some very interesting psychological things going on. Jamie Printy going back to Wisconsin, which is where she tore her ACL last year.
really?
That's right.
I just wonder how she's going to be able to deal with that.
I hope she scores 30 points.
It's got to be on her mind, but yeah, I do too. By the way, this is a little off the point of playing Wisconsin. Sports Opinion was ahead of the news again this week. I don't know how much of this you remember, but when Lisa Bluter was here in the fall, you asked her about recruiting, and she said that she was interested in two girls on the Canadian national team, and one of them verbally committed to play at Iowa
Yes.
last week. A young woman by the name of Christina Buttonham, who's a 5'11" shooting guard from Hamilton, Ontario in Canada.
Have you
So-
seen video of her?
I have not.
Pretty good.
Well, we lost Al Lorenzen's daughter from
Yeah.
Sydney, going to Florida. I guess because she wants to study interior design or dressmaking or
Running
something.
out of patience with the children of former Iowa athletes
getting
going
old,
to other
isn't it?
schools. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Stokes gal going to Connecticut, and
Oh, you,
has she started there?
No.
no.
That's what I thought.
She's got a stress fracture right now. I don't know if it's in her foot or what, but she's really not playing much at all. She's not playing at all right now.
She could have made a big difference here for us.
Oh,
could have
Lord.
helped a lot. And
Lord.
But it sounds like when you get to the Lorenzen gal, Al Lorenzen's daughter, that the interior design program at Florida is one of the top 3 in the country.
I
So that
admire.
might, and she has relatives down there. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the young lady, but boy, she would have been a dandy get.
Yeah, I
It's
admire
too
a
bad.
junior who knows what she or he wants to do. I'm impressed with that.
Well,
But I also
most
know-
of them don't. That's
right.
true. Yeah.
But I also know that stuff changes.
True.
It changes.
Very true.
And
Well, Pat made a good point. You know, you hate to see those ex-Iowa athletes, kids going elsewhere.
I like the way you put it, Pat. Running out of patience with
Yeah.
former Hawkeye athletes' children. We'll see what happens next. Now, does the Canadian girl is a junior in high school,
Yes.
right? How many more juniors in high school can we sign? when
Well,
it's
her
time?
goal is 4,
Wow.
Okay.
so she's halfway home. Now, that's always subject to change. If she's not going to get acceptances from somebody who she thinks can play, she might bank one of those. But that was her goal, was to get 4. And I think you can pretty reliably assume that what she wants in the last 2 are post players, 4s or 5s.
Yeah.
She has a verb from a point guard from Logansport and now a shooting guard from
But
Canada. And
it's Jennings from Logansport,
Yeah.
right? She's a sophomore, right?
No, she's a
She is
junior.
now a junior.
yeah,
Okay.
this-
Okay.
That's her class.
That's the okay.
Okay.
She and Buttonham will be
Well, they're going to need
teammates.
some bigs.
Now, what do we have coming in? The kids are committed in November to come in fall of 2015.
Well, they're both 2s and 3s. Allie Disterhoff
Oh,
and
that's
a
right, sure.
girl from Nebraska, Lexi I struggle to remember her last name, but they both will end up playing 2 and 3. And so Buttonham is
Yeah.
really of the same mold.
So we just have the 2 coming in.
Yes.
That
For
are current
this-
seniors.
At
Yes.
this,
2013,
at this
yeah.
point. Now, again, it's not impossible that they find somebody late or a junior college
Yeah.
transfer, which is how Kathy Reynolds got here last year. She was a fairly late recruit, came from junior college. Has 3, in her case, had 3 years left.
Yeah. Okay.
But at this point, it's 2, and then the goal was 4.
I noticed Claire Till.
Yeah, she's had the problem that kept her out for a month is referred to as a stress reaction, not a stress fracture. But she sat out a month and it started to work back into practice and actually played a
She
little
played
bit in a
against Ohio
couple
State.
games. Same issue has flared up again. And
She played a 4?
she mostly has. She can play 3, but she's her court time has mostly been at 4. She had done a fairly effective job in rebounding, and they could use her too. But at this point, it really
Doesn't look
doesn't.
good.
It can't be encouraged.
Yeah.
So she's probably going to sit out for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. Would be my guess.
People are hurt on the Iowa squad.
She's the only one.
Okay.
Right now.
Nicole Smith, who had a ACL repair late in her senior high school year, has been slow. She was slow in early practice going and hadn't played very much, but she's cleared and ready to go.
When you were talking earlier, hey Joe, how much time we got left? Got 4 minutes. You were talking about sports opinion being ahead of the news or whatever. Last week we talked about football wide receivers coach Eric Campbell.
Yes.
It was a very poorly guarded secret that he's no longer with the staff. And
Yeah.
last week after our show, one of the recruits let it slip out on his Twitter feed that Eric Campbell is no longer with the Hawkeyes, and that has indeed been confirmed by offensive line coach Brian Ferentz. Looks like Eric Campbell might end up at Mizzou.
He's interviewed.
Yeah. So he'd be going to the SEC, and that'll be interesting. I think there are going to be some more changes on the coaching staff. We'll see
Sounds
what
that
happens. We're not going to learn much, if anything, before the signing date in February.
But we do know there's a graduate assistant coming.
Right.
From Miami, right?
Brother
Hernandez.
of the Patriots tight end.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I'll be-
Which I'm sure is the connection. Brian
Yes.
was the tight ends coach with the Patriots.
I'll
And,
be darned. Well, we'll see what happens there. I did want to mention that the West High boys team had a big game last Friday at home against number 2 ranked and undefeated Dubuque Senior, and West High whipped them. It was a close game, but West High pulled away, and that was a big win for them. The West High girls, they won last night. Isterhoff had another big game.
did you watch that West High boys game?
No, I was at the wrestling meet.
It was on the 109
Yeah.
channel, and Dubuque Senior has a young man who says he's been offered a scholarship by Fran.
The sophomore.
No, he's a junior
Oh, he's a
this year.
junior now. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was offered 2 years ago, supposedly,
Yeah.
right?
Listed at 6'9". I don't know.
Now you say supposedly offered.
Well, he said he was offered. There's been, I mean, Fran can't acknowledge
Right.
that he's been offered, and
Right. Time will tell.
time will tell.
But he hasn't done that much, has he?
Not
No,
yet.
I don't think so.
That's kind of what I heard. Yeah.
Time will tell, and unfortunately, we're out of time on Sports Opinion this week. Daggone it. Bob's going to be gone next week.
2 weeks.
For the next 2 weeks, he's on special
Yeah,
assignment.
that's right.
Pat will be back. Earl will be
Recruiting.
back. I'll be back. And we hope you're back with us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18. And we repeat the show is at 6 p.m. again on Channel 18. If you can't catch it then, you can go to Pat or my Facebook page and you'll find our weekly program there. Or you can go to patv.tv and you can watch the show there. They're all logged in on the Public Access TV website. On behalf of Bob Boyd and Pat White, Earl Murphy, I'm Dirk Keller, thanking you for watching Sports Opinion. And remember, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks.
Amen.